Hello, my beautiful listeners. Welcome to the Raw Reflections podcast, brought to you by the Mirror Impact. My name is Ariel Keller, and today we are going to be talking about how to take your power back.
Start off today, I want to talk a little bit about the mirror coaching model, and I discussed this a little bit in the first podcast, like the sneak peek that I posted on Podbean, but I decided that I really did not like that format because I couldn't really share it or edit it or do anything that I really wanted to with it. And I can't transfer that to YouTube, unfortunately. So I would have to re-record it. But to give you a little sneak peek of it, the mirror coaching model is based on the acronym MIRROR, and it starts off with mindset, and that's, basically being in the mindset to make positive change. And there's a lot that goes into that, but that's kind of the basics of it. And then the next letter is I, and that's for identify. And this is when we decide what things are causing us that are affecting us in our positive change, or what things that we need to address to create that positive change. And that can be in all different areas of your life, spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, all kinds of different things. So that's probably the biggest section of the coaching model. And we're going to probably discuss a little bit more of that in some later episodes. I'd love to address each of these in their own episode. But this is also when we decide what our response is going to be to all of these variables of our personal growth. And those responses can fit into 3 different categories, just based on this coaching model, which are the 3 next letters: release, repair, and overcome. So ultimately, when we identify something that is causing us frustration in our lives, we can choose to release that, repair whatever relationship or situation that is causing that frustration or discomfort in our lives, or we can choose to overcome it and take practical strategies and steps in order to do so. So, and then the last letter is reflect, and that's based on, just taking what you've learned and reflecting on where you came from and where you want to go next, and just that next step. It's not meant to be something that is just, oh, now I'm done, I never get to do this again. It's reflecting on, okay, this is what I've learned, and this is how I've learned to approach these kinds of situations, and implementing those same strategies into everyday life. And as most things go, practice makes better. Not necessarily perfect, but the more you practice, the easier it's going to get. So with that being said, with that mirror coaching model, today we're going to be talking about taking your power back. And when it comes to power and control, let's face it, we all like to be in control. We like to be in control of things. As humans, in that survival instinct, this is how we've survived for whatever your stance is, millions, billions, whatever, of years. Okay, and this is when it comes to power, we don't like to be powerless or out of control. None of us like to feel that sense of vulnerability, in that we don't have the ability to change the situation, and that's difficult to consider. But when it comes to situations, relationships, when somebody doesn't love us the way they want to, or they don't treat us with the respect that we feel we deserve, or they don't pay us what we feel like we're worth, or things aren't going the way that we planned, whether that's from, traffic being way backed up and you're going to be late, or your husband gets a job offer across the country. Who knows? But ultimately, there are a lot of things in life that we don't have control over. And when we think about it that way, and we point out all the things we don't have control over, a lot of these things are circumstantial. A lot of these things are, they're going to happen regardless of whether we had control over it in the first place or not. But a big thing with that is that we do have control in our response to the situation. So as we don't have control over the situation, we do have control over our response or reaction to the situation. And that is all the time. It doesn't matter where you are, what stage of life you're in, or how many times you try to blame it on your situation. You have control. I have control over our situations, or over our responses to the situations. Sorry. And this isn't always easy to admit. I know it's not for me, because it's encouraging to know that we can shift our focus, but it also means that we have to take responsibility and own up to some of the not so great things that we allow to cloud our focus. And so we're going to go through a couple of those things today. First off, taking responsibility and understanding the power we have over our thoughts. Thoughts pop into our heads all the time. We talked a little bit about this last week. And thoughts that we allow to fester and affect the way that we see situations, people, life as a whole. Thoughts that we sometimes it's easy when you're in a bad mood or you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's easy to look at all of the negatives. It's easier to complain about a situation. It requires less energy from our brain to pinpoint all of the negative things than it does to pinpoint all of the positive things. I know I for one have to legitimately sit down with no distractions. When I'm in a bad mood, I just have to be like, all right, I need to take a minute. And I will sit down. I love to sit on my porch when it's nice and just stare out into the woods behind my apartment and go through a list of things that I'm thankful for, because I have to realign my focus. I do have a tendency to react emotionally, and we're going to talk about that next. I have a tendency to let my negative thoughts overwhelm my mind, and then I go into this downward spiral of, oh, poor me, my life sucks, rather than pointing out to myself and out loud the things that are good in my life. I have a bed to sleep in. I have clean drinking water. I have, running water and a toilet that flushes. And I have food. I have a fridge full of food. And even if it's noodles and chicken that week, even if I'm running low on food, I still have food to eat. There's a lot of people that don't. And when I think about it in that perspective, it allows my emotions to it allows me to kind of ring in my emotions from that downward spiral to a standstill, and then a slow climb back up to that positive attitude. So the thoughts that we allow to fester, we need to take responsibility for our thoughts. No one else can control our thoughts. That is one thing that we are in control of. And I know you're like, oh, well, thoughts just pop into our head. It's our brain's response. Whose brain is it? You have the option of allowing that thought to stay there or to get rid of it. You have the option of, it's just like, I heard an analogy on the Brooke Castillo podcast that I was listening to today. And she was talking about how there are many clouds in the sky. And you can choose to focus on one cloud. You can choose to focus on a couple of clouds, like a bundle of clouds, or you can choose to focus on the entire sky and the beauty of the sky in general. And when we take ownership and we take responsibility for the fact that we can view one cloud or the whole sky, or one negative thought or one positive thought, or the whole slew of thoughts, that is the power that we have over our thoughts. And another thing that we have power over and is how we allow our thoughts to affect our emotions, because that's ultimately how our body transitions these things. We have a thought that pops into our head, and that thought starts to release chemicals in our brain, and those are the emotions that we start to feel. And some people are more sensitive to that than others. Some people are more logical, so they go straight into analyzing a situation, and that can sometimes lead to that downward spiral in another way. You either have a logical sense of handling a thought or an emotional sense of handling a thought. And we also have control over the emotions we allow to surface from these thoughts. And right now, you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I want to turn this off. This is stupid, bullcrap, whatever. I don't have control over my emotions. They control me. That's a great mentality to have. Really? They don't control you. They don't control me. Though I allow them to at times. I can choose to spend hours feeling sorry for myself about a situation and cry over it and sulk over it and complain about it. And trust me, I do that sometimes. Okay, I'm not perfect at this. I'm still a work in progress, just like you. But I have the ability to let those emotions surface from those thoughts, or to identify those thoughts and say, you know what? No, I'm not going to allow myself to get into this pity party, waste my time and my energy, because this energy that we're using, letting our emotions get the better of us, is energy we could be spending bettering our lives, or bettering our mentality about something, or just in general being productive. And when we allow these emotions to take over, it's no one's fault and no one's responsibility, nothing else's responsibility except for ours. And it's important to identify that so that we can start to make positive change. And it's not a switch that you flip. It's a constant sense of why am I feeling this way? Bringing it back to identifying the thought that's causing us to feel that way. And then figuring out our reaction to that thought. And that's the next step, is taking responsibility for our reaction, our response to the emotions that our thoughts have brought up. And sometimes we don't identify any of these negative thoughts or emotions until we get to this stage of the reaction or the response. And I'm probably going to do a whole podcast episode on reaction versus response. But reaction is based on emotions, and a response is based on a logical sense of handling the situation. And that's what I was talking a little bit about, how we censor certain things. And even if you are a logical person, you're still going to have emotional responses at times, because that's how we are wired, or how our brains are wired. And sometimes if you're good at responding emotionally, or if you respond emotionally all the time, sometimes you're going to have a logical response, because that you have learned to process that in a logical way. And it does depend on the situation and how close you are to the situation and in what way, but we ultimately have power over our reaction or response to the situation or our emotions in that situation. So say that I find out, let's say that I'm hanging out with my friends out for a drink, and some girl looks at me and she gives me the stank eye, and I'm like, girl, what you talking about? I could get all up in her face. I could feel insecure, let that thought pop into my mind of, oh, she's judging me, get emotional based on my own insecurities, and go at her. And my reaction, that would be a very emotional, non-thought out reaction to just automatically taking defense mode. Ultimately, I am projecting my insecurities on her because she didn't say anything. She didn't do anything necessarily. She could have been admiring my outfit, and I took it the wrong way. And my reaction to the situation is only my responsibility. It's not hers. Oh, but she looked at you weird. So? I look at people weird all the time without any intention of negative thinking. Sometimes it's just my face, all right? Y'all got a problem with that? So we have control over our reaction to the situation. And taking responsibility, and this is especially hard when it's after this whole event has happened, when we're observing it from a reaction standpoint, we're like, oh, I reacted very emotionally, or I responded very well in that situation. But it's another thing to catch ourselves in that cycle before we respond or react in a way that could negatively affect someone else or us in that situation. And that brings me to my next point of the choices that we make. We have power over the choices that we make based on the thoughts and the emotions and the reactions. I have the power to try and fight that girl, or to ignore it and continue having fun with my friends. And ultimately, that is my choice. Okay? That our choices in, I can choose to sit at home and sulk about how crappy my life is, how much I hate my job, how much I feel, devalued in a certain area of my life, or how, fat my body is, or how, much I hate this certain part of my life. I could sit and sulk for hours. You could sit and sulk for hours, and you can blame it on your anxiety and your depression and your negative situation all you want. But until you decide to take responsibility and make the choice to get off your butt and do something, rather than using my energy to sit and sulk, why don't I go and maybe go walk? Go for a walk. If you hate your body, if you're sitting there sulking about how much you hate your body, instead of using that energy complaining about what you have not achieved physically yet, go work on achieving it. It's going to be the same amount of energy. Maybe not the same amount of energy because it's physical versus, the brain energy. But it's, one, going to increase your dopamine levels by moving, so it's going to increase your positivity. And two, it's going to increase your choice. You have the choice to take action or to be inactive. Action or inaction is our choice. And that action or inaction can be positive or negative, and that is also our choice. So deciding to throw the blame and the responsibility of how crappy your day was and how horrible you feel on one person who said something wrong to you that you didn't like, and it set you off, and it was just that turning point of your day, you could blame everything on that person. But ultimately, if you're going to see any positive change in your life, you have to address the fact that it was your responsibility to react that way. It was your responsibility to let the emotions that you were feeling about your day just all come up and bubble over simply because of that one person's statement. But why on earth would we want to give that power to someone else? Why would we want to release that power when we can take that power back and we can say, you know what? Yes, I could have reacted differently. Yes, I should have reacted or responded instead of reacted. And I should have taken a minute to address my thoughts and emotions and then talk to that person, rather than bringing all my baggage and all my crap into this situation and allowing it to just volcanically erupt. And now I'm just finding someone to blame because it's much easier to blame somebody else. But I can tell you for a fact that it's never going to get you anywhere in life. I have had clients who have blamed everything possible on their lack of results. I have seen people come in and they're like, you know what, I'm committed to this journey. I'm committed to this, weight loss journey. I'm committed to, making positive change for my body physically. And then they come to me and they're like, well, I just can't stop eating. Oh, chocolate just has a way with me. I'm a chocoholic. What can I say? You could say that you're going to limit your chocolate. You have power over how much chocolate you eat. You have power over the thoughts that enter your mind that say, oh, I'm bored, I'm lonely, I want chocolate. I need chocolate. I deserve this. Because I worked out today. I deserve this whole chocolate bar because I worked out today. I'm not hating on chocolate, guys. This is one of my favorite things to treat myself with when at the end of the day or when I'm feeling stressed. I'll take that, little bar of Ghirardelli chocolate and I'll just break it in half. And it's like, it's a little square. But I have the power over my thoughts saying, oh, you could just go back and eat the other half of that. And I will admit, sometimes I don't take that power and use it to its full potential, because sometimes I let my thoughts and my emotions and maybe my boredom or my stress get the better of me. And I'm like, you know what? I am just going to eat that other half a bar of chocolate. Like, I deserve it. But I can't blame anything else. I can't blame the chocolate for my lack of results if I decide to do that every single day and I realize that I am bloated and I, don't feel the greatest because I've been filling up my calorie intake with chocolate. I can't get mad at anybody else for that. I can't blame the chocolate because it wasn't the chocolate's fault. I can't give the chocolate the power because ultimately the power is mine. You can't blame your husband for bringing you chocolate for Valentine's Day. You have the power to say whether or not you're going to eat it all at once or you're going to eat one piece in the evening each day after you've done your workout and you're like, you know what, I'm going to reward myself after dinner with one of the chocolates or maybe two. Give yourself a little treat. Put it into your fitness planner app or your, macro calculator, whatever that is. That if you're tracking your goals, or you're trying to, or you're tracking your calories, make sure you add it in because you are taking power over that situation. You can't blame your husband for bringing you chocolates when you feel terrible about yourself because you ate the whole box in one sitting. So keep that in mind. The inaction or action that you choose to take is completely according to you. You have the power over that. So the last one that I'm going to talk about is taking responsibility and taking power back about our words, the words that we decide to speak. Ultimately, when we give power to our thoughts when we speak them out loud. I talked about this a little bit last week with the self-talk element of, showing love to ourselves or speaking positively over ourselves rather than speaking negatively, and how much power you can get, you can gain back in your own mind from speaking these positive thoughts over yourself. And this same concept goes for anything else about your life, any other people, any other situations. If we go into it, if I start my day, when I wake up at 4 a.m. to teach my 5:30 a.m. class, if I start my day with, oh my God, I hate getting up this early. I just want to sleep. I didn't sleep well. I just had a terrible night. I felt like I was restless. If I start my day with that mentality, my morning's going to suck. It really is. And it probably is going to trickle into the rest of my day. And even if I decide to transition that midday, I choose to transition that midday. But I also choose to get up that early because I need that time. I could get up at 5 o'clock and rush there and probably not like myself very much, but I choose to get up earlier so I can allow myself time to transition those thoughts that try to pop into my head when I'm tired and I'm cranky and I just want to sleep and it's dark and I shouldn't be up yet. Like that, in my mind, I could go straight into that negative spiral of, oh, this is a negative thought. Now it's turning into a negative emotion and it's going to turn into a reaction or a response that could affect the clients that I'm trying to train early in the morning, and be that positive reflection of, hey, this is something you're doing good for your body. You showed up today. And I want to make sure that I am encouraging them in that because they took action. And I have to set my mind and be ready for that. And so my biggest thing that I do when I wake up in the morning is I'll turn on like a little, and I like to listen to like Reiki ASMR videos on YouTube, or I'll listen to some instrumental worship music, just really soft and like reflective, or something that's, maybe it's just binaural beats or whatever, something that's going to set my mind into a positive flow of, okay, you know what, this is going to be a good morning. I always pray on my way to work, because that sets my mind in a good, all right, I'm focusing on how I can serve today, rather than I hate my life, how much am I getting paid for this? If I focus on that, I am in a terrible mood. But if I focus on why I'm doing this is to serve people and to help them, then that focus allows me to start my day in a much more positive way. So I want to challenge you this week. We're gonna wrap it up here. I want to challenge you this week in taking responsibility for your thoughts, the emotions that stem from that, your reaction or response to those emotions and those thoughts, as well as your choices and your words. I want you to just kind of think about all these different things. And it's not something, like, I know it may seem a little bit overwhelming. And today was just kind of an overview of all the things. I wanted to help you understand how much power you do have, because there's so many moments in life where we feel very powerless. And I'm saying this from a personal perspective, because I had a lot of moments this week that I felt very powerless. And I am recording this on a Thursday and I'm posting it on a Monday, so just give you that perspective. But I had a lot of moments this week where I felt very powerless, and I had to take that time to just think about, all right, I need to stop sulking. I need to get up and be active. I need to go do something, take action, and work towards these goals that I feel so far away from. And I'm a big instant gratification person, and if you know me personally, you know that. And sometimes it's difficult for me to have patience with myself when I'm learning something new, or I'm learning to address things in a new way. And I am constantly learning, and I'm learning to do this very thing at the same time that I'm teaching it. Like it's a process, and it's a constant process. It's not something I'm just gonna figure out how to do and then my mind just automatically switches into, okay, positivity. No, it's a daily decision. It's a daily choice. Sometimes it's a choice that I make multiple times throughout the day, because I could allow any little thing to shift that focus. I could allow being late to work. I could allow, one guy who cut me off on the road and I scream at him. I could allow any of that to affect my day. Or I could say, you know what? I'm not going to let you affect my day. My mom used to sing this song that was the most annoying thing in the world when I was younger. And it was mainly, she'd sing it to my little sister. But I don't know if she ever sang it to me. But she'd sing, you're not gonna ruin my day. I'm gonna be happy anyway. And it would drive me insane. And she would sing it to my sister and it would drive her crazy. But she would just be like, you know what? I'm not gonna let your bad attitude or your negative thoughts influence the way that I see my day. And sometimes that song pops in my head and I'm like, oh, good Lord. Like, I hated it then, but now it really does have that resonance. And I'm like, you know what? I can choose whether this is going to ruin my day, or I can choose to move past it and focus on the action that I'm doing, or the action that I'm taking, my positive response, my positive thoughts. I have the power to transfer, to shift my thoughts, and to speak words that are encouraging rather than focusing on, or rather than just complaining about everything. Because it's really easy to focus on the negative, but to learn how to shift into that positive mindset, it's incredibly rewarding and something that when we understand that we have power over a situation, it gives us that sense of security and that sense of I can overcome this, or I can choose to release this, or I can choose to repair this mentality and move forward in my goals, and whether that be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relationships, whatever that might look like for you. You have the power to take positive action. You have the power to shift your focus and shift your thoughts. You have the power to let emotions drive you or to release them. And you have the power over your reaction in a situation. And I just want to encourage you that in that this week, and I want you to just kind of identify some of the areas in your life as you go through this week when you get stuck in that negative mentality or that negative thought process about a situation. I just want you to think about the power that you do have, because ultimately you are the one who has to take that power back. No one else can do it for you. Only you can do it. And it has to be your choice to take responsibility for your actions and your reactions, your thoughts and emotions, and to move forward from that and continue in that positive lifestyle change for your mind and your body. So I hope that this has encouraged you today and that you have a fantastic week. I will see you guys next week, and I will talk to you guys next week. I don't really see people because it's podcast. It's whatever. Have a fantastic week, guys. Thank you for listening to the Raw Reflections podcast. I'm Ariel Keller. Until next time.